Hey Facebook, this is your girl Regina Lynette Brown of RLB Consulting Service coming to you today with the continuous student workshop series that God blessed me to share with the students of life and the students that are actually in the classroom. So hopefully you've been getting a lot out of what we've been going over. Just so you know and are reminded, hey Arthur, the PowerPoints, if you want to see the slides that I'll be referencing, my thoughts, in other words, my conversation starters, they're on my page. They're on my business page. But I'm also live on my personal page. So, it works out well so that I can connect with you a little bit better face to face and perhaps even comment when you make a comment. So the first week or the first series that God blessed me to share with you was Christian student success strategies, and there were 8, and there were 8 keys to unlock endless possibilities. And hopefully by now you've allowed your mind and time to sit down and sit still and kind of marinate over those things and figure out how they play into your world and what it is that you're trying to do. So everybody, I believe, everybody with breath in their body, right, always has a goal that we're trying to obtain. And there's a process that we have to go through just to get to that next level. So those steps and those tools, hey nieces, those steps and those tools will help us to get to that next level is my belief. And then I have last week, I gave you some other tools to continue that process, right? And of course, I'm having a brain freeze of what the title was from last week. So I'm going to have to cheat and go over here and look at my sheet because I've been so focused on this week's workshop that last week is just completely out of my mind. Self-discipline, discipline versus decision. That's right. And so in order to basically follow through with anything that hey Barb, hey Linda, follow through with anything that we want to accomplish, we have to decide to do it and then commit to doing that and then have the discipline, because the commitment comes in when we actually implement the discipline, right? And we can only control ourselves, and we can only control ourselves within situations that we can't control. So all that plays a role in making that decision for us to move to that next level, whatever that is. So the revelation that I've had this week about the series is that it's actually 4. So the first one being, again, the Christian student success strategies. The second one being decision versus discipline, which was self-discipline. And then this week being job versus career, and I've combined in there why accounting, and why else would I talk about accounting when I am an accountant and I am an accounting professor. So of course I would talk about my subject, right? It impacts all of us. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then the resume tips. It seemed to all come together as I was working on this presentation this week, that those 3 concepts really were one presentation. So instead of 7, there are 4 now. So the last one, 2, that we will do next Saturday is going to be making lemonade from fresh lemons, right? Combining that with telling your story. So those 2, I also believe, as I did a little research and a little prayer this week, go together. So we'll conclude the student series, which will be 4 workshops on next week. So to get started on this week, again, for those of you just chiming in, the PowerPoints are on my business page. My business page is RLB Consulting Service. We're going to talk about job versus career, in which I combine why consider accounting, right? And resume tips, just a few, just to kind of get us started where we need to go. And then for those of you who don't know, I am an accounting professor and I am an author. I've started recently, hey Wanda, I started recently going out and, well, recently as maybe a year now, a year and a half, doing these type of presentations, but just around, right, the world, because I've done a couple out of state, which has been really, really cool, especially when they call me on the spot and I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm like, okay, God, what are we doing? What are we saying? So I've stepped into the realm of speaking and presenting and just God's just taking me in a whole different direction. And I know if he's doing that for my life, reinventing me constantly, then he's also speaking to you for you to step out and do something different in yours. If you're trying to contact me, my email is consult.rlbrown@gmail.com. And then you can also message me. And then the other thing that I don't know if many of you know is my website, which is www.rlbconsultingservice.com. There is a tip in this for everyone. So if you're on here and you think I'm just, talking to the wind, I caution you to listen if you're planning your next move. So we're going to start off with job versus career. So I looked at Indeed.com, which is one of those websites that is popular now. It's in the top 10 list of job sites to go and seek out your position, right? So these are some of the things that they described as a job versus a career. So as a job, they said, Indeed.com that is, said a job is work you perform to earn money to support your basic needs. And that's true. Every time I needed to earn some money for a specific thing, I picked up another job. If I was trying to get out of debt, I would go pick up another job, which many of us do. Some of us during this pandemic have picked up an additional job, and a job being something like, cashiering at one of the stores, or Amazon now is a big thing for going to pick up a job, right? Something that you can do that doesn't really require a whole lot of skill sets, but gives you the satisfaction of earning whatever it is that you need to earn to get done whatever you're trying to do. That's a job. I also added that a job is also something that you need to do to maintain. So sometimes in life, we have to have a job just to maintain, just to function, because that career that we really, really see ourselves doing is going to take us time to get there. In order to get there, we have to make some money to maintain, so therefore we get jobs. In addition to these things, I have some other insights that I want to say, but I wanted to focus on what Indeed.com was talking about. The other point I have about Indeed.com says on a career is a long-term professional journey you may determine based on your passions. And if you don't know, my book, Level Up, talks about your passions and your purpose. And so that's also falling directly in line with my story, which I'll share. The other thing it says is that it is the path you embark upon to fulfill your professional goals and your ambitions. So we all have goals and ambitions, whether we delayed them and put them off because we had kids or we got married or we moved or something else in life happened and we just kind of put it off. We also have those things that are burning in our spirit and in our mind constantly that we want to accomplish. And those are our goals and our ambitions, and that leads us into our career, i.e. our passion, our purpose. It is considered your profession. So when somebody asks you in the professional realms, when you're networking, they'll say, what is your profession, or what do you do for a living? That they're talking about your career. So again, the jobs, just giving you some more of my descriptive pieces of job, it gives you great experience. It helps you determine what you don't want, right? So let me give you some of my background on that. So I remember being a college student, and of course, I created these for the college student, right? So I remember being a college student, and my dad, who worked for Quality Croutons, which was a crouton manufacturing company on the south side of Chicago, he was a machine operator. And his boss and all of the workers there had, got to pause to get a battery on my phone over here, but they all their employees and everybody got together. They wanted their, because all of them had students in college, they wanted all their students to have a job for the summer, right? But I also think they wanted to teach us a lesson because, when you're a freshman in college, you think life is hard, everybody's mean, these people are crazy because they don't treat you like your high school teachers teach you or, treated you, right? And I say we now because I'm a college professor, we have a lot more expectations, right? That high school students coming into college are not necessarily ready or prepared to do, which is why I said we have to start earlier when I talked about that last week. But anyway, so we all get this job, and it was a great paying job. And I remember minimum wage being $3.75 or something like that. And I think we were making almost $10, if not more, an hour. So we were in hog heaven, thinking we were making some big bank. And it was about 7 of us, and we became friends over the summer because we grind together. I mean, that was the most hard, difficult, back-breaking job we have ever had in our lives. And by the end of the summer, we all committed to finishing college without a doubt and finding a profession that did not require us to have back bending, bend over, heavy lifting all day on your feet in a manufacturing plant type work, because it just was overwhelming to us. We were just like, oh my God, this is the best money I ever made. But the sacrifices of it were just something we really weren't ready to deal with, right? I choose to want to have for the rest of our lives. So it also gave us admiration for our parents, right, who work there, and the employees who happen to be there. We were just really grateful that somebody is willing to do this type of hard work to feed us, because that's ultimately what, this Crouton Manufacturing Company did. So it taught me, quite a few things. It taught me the value of working hard, right? Because those people literally, as we call them, frontline people, in addition to hospital people and stuff. But I'm talking about those that are in the grocery stores and all that. So I totally understand their walkout. But they put in some serious hard work. I mean, it is tiring. At the end of the day, they are worn out. And the thing about it is, if they have families, they can't shut down when they get home. They still got to go home and make it happen. So I admire them. I applaud them. But I'm glad that I learned earlier in life that was a route that I would have to take if I didn't do what I was required to do at that time, which is to be a student. So for me, it was value added. Now, in addition to that, now that I teach accounting and I teach managerial accounting, I can use that experience because it just popped into my head one day when I was trying to figure out how do I explain manufacturing to these kids. And I realized I worked in a manufacturing plant. So it was real easy for me to translate my experience to them and tell them about my experience. Of course, I told them about this part, working hard as well and making the decision to finish school. But I also am able to give them enlightenment on that whole manufacturing process. And it makes that chapter, or that set of chapters, easier to comprehend. So the other things that I listed were allows a chance to improve your skill set. So whatever jobs you've had, because I've had several in my lifetime, you always learn a new set of skills. And one of the most important walkaways from jobs that I've had was customer service and dealing with people, period. Like, you dealt with different managers on different levels, you dealt with your coworkers, and you dealt with the public. And being able to navigate that is a skill within itself, because if you've never dealt with that, it's a stress that you really don't want, right? But it's something that you have to do to get paid. And so I value that particular skill set. But there are other skills that they learn. They learn how to count back change if they're a cashier, right? They learn the value of why certain things have a process, and to follow that process, and what happens when you don't follow that process, and that kind of thing. And so accountability is built into that, and responsibility. So it's always good to get our kids to working in some type of environment, right, while they're early enough to make those informed decisions. The opportunity to network. So you do get to meet all kind of people in all kind of stores. Whatever the jobs are, you meet all kind of people on different levels, and you never know where your next opportunity is coming from. So when we do our work unto the Lord, as the Bible tells us, being glad in it and just, doing it, right, with a cheerful heart, because at the end of the day, we're still getting paid for this. And it's something to put on your resume. You actually attract people to you. So people will come and just say, hey, you have a great attitude. Thank you for your service. I appreciate this and that. Because I even saw people on Facebook post how different people in the community were bringing them coffee and being nice to them in the stores. My pastor, David Wilson, also mentioned that he and his wife tipped the people in the grocery store last week or whatever. And so, those kind of things, it comes from having, when you're genuine you get to network with people who are also genuine and they bless you in that process. And you never know who slips you their business card and say, hey, when you're done with this or when you're finished with school or whatever, come holler at me and I'm going to hire you. Now, within that position is typically limited growth. If there is a chance to move up into management, it takes a while for some people. And then those who actually do move up within a job have to work and grind so much harder, physically, mostly, right? And so it just depends on your goal. So if that is your goal and you want to move up within retail, for example, and move into management at Walmart or whatever, it is a very possibility, but it is a longer road in process, especially without your degrees. Now, careers, on the other hand, they help you. It's what you love to do, right? It's not so much helps you love what you do, as I wrote on the slide, but you tend to love what you do. So for me, when I was an accountant, it was a profession, right? But it really wasn't particularly what I love to do. When I got into teaching, I had already been mentoring at work and I had already been coaching people at work on the job, new employees and such. And I love doing that. The act of balancing my accounts every month and the act of getting them out the door and all that was just routine. It became a routine, mundane experience for me. But when I honed in on actual teaching, then that's where the enlightenment and the love came in, right? I found a genuine, true passion for something that came easy to me and I like to do, and I was able to put it into a different form into the classroom. It also allows you to have great exposure to showcase your skills. So when you're in your career, there's always going to be opportunities to come up to volunteer. For example, we have different committees and such at work for different tasks. When you volunteer for those committees, you have an opportunity to showcase other skills that you have beyond what it is that you're doing in your position. Opportunities for growth are endless. For the most part, I'm going to say in accounting, they are endless, but I'm going to be particular. But they're endless. There's a lot of opportunities for growth. There's things that you don't even know are available to you that just happens to come up when you're in your chosen profession that has aligned with your gifts. The talents within you just unfold and people notice them and you don't know they're noticing them. And then all of a sudden you're presenting with opportunities. So they just kind of unfold. Increases your network through professional organizations. So yes, you still have the opportunity to network just like you did in your job. But now you have professional organizations behind you. So for me, it's the National Association of Black Accountants. It was the American Association of Accountancy. So there are different organizations that I have been a part of, still a part of, that network you not just in your own city and state, but they also take you from state level to national level and then even internationally. So you get to explore and learn more on a higher scale. So for example, I went to a workshop and I learned from meeting somebody from Chile, which is in South America, that I could be sponsored by them to go and teach at their university. I had never heard of that before. I've known people that go to other countries and work, but I never understood, never really inquired how. And so this person that I happened to meet told me this whole process. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. And so, oh, well, keep in touch with me. And whenever you're ready, we would love to have you come to our university. So networking on a professional level takes you higher than you can ever imagine. Opens all kind of doors, right? Opportunity. And then I also find it gratifying. So not only do I love what I do now, but it's gratifying. It's even more gratifying when a student comes back and they say thank you and then they express to me or share to me what they have accomplished as far as their goals and how they never really thought they could do it, and then how somehow, way or another, I told them they could. And then they tell me things I don't even remember I said, right? And they've accomplished them. And it's just so rewarding within me to know that I helped somebody accomplish their goals. And so it was so much more rewarding to me doing this than it was when I was just balancing the books, right? So now I'm teaching other people how to do that same skill set but it's actually aligning them with something they never even imagined could be possible for their lives. So it's extremely gratifying. I also know, for example, my cousin happens to be watching from St. Louis. Not St. Louis, Kansas. Her daughter has gone into, she's a fashion designer, always has been interested in it her whole life, and now has made a career of it on her own. But it is so gratifying for her. How do I know that? I can see it in her eyes. I can hear it when she does her little videos. She just lights up. She loves what she's doing. She's always doing something new with it. You know, when you are in your passion, your career, your chosen profession, it just it just keeps unfolding. It just never ends. It's always renewing itself. Now, God's word on work. So I've picked 4 scriptures. There's plenty. Yes, Kansas City, Missouri. Thank you, Wanda. Whatever you do, work heartily as to the Lord, not for men. Colossians 3:23. And then the next one is Ecclesiastes 5:10. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth and with his wealth. This also is vanity. So let me go back. So Colossians 3:23 saying, whatever we do, do it unto the Lord as unto man. We all have managers, supervisors, etc. Hey, Sandra, that we don't necessarily gel well with, right? You know, sometimes it's all this constant battle, right? And you know it's not personal because you don't really know them on a personal level, so you know it got to be spiritual, right? So we as Christians should take the position that what we're doing is not for this person, this individual who's giving you all kind of hell on the job. What you're doing is standing, being steadfast, unmovable, and always abiding in the Lord, and doing what you do because God placed you there, and you know God is going to bless you in spite of, despite these people. He is even going to present a table spread before your enemies because of all the hell that they cause you, while you're simply just trying to do your job, follow your passion, and give whatever it is wholeheartedly to Him, because you know everything that we do is still a part of who we are as a Christian. So sometimes we have to put blinders on and ignore what the attacks of the enemy. Not saying to ignore them where we don't pray for them and we don't deal with them accordingly, but blinders on where it doesn't stop you from being the best you can be in all situations, especially at work. Now, Ecclesiastes is talking about us being prideful. Now, some of us get in position and we start actually, God blesses us, right, with abundance, and we make a little bit of change, and we kind of forget ourselves a little bit, and then we kind of get a little, you know, stuck up, as they say, right, beside ourselves, and we forget who gave it to us, and we just simply cannot, because He blesses us, He keeps us, He sustains us, He supplies us, and we don't want to be set up where He is against us, because then He's going to take from us and give it to those who are righteous. So you want to stay righteous and do it unto the Lord, and make sure that you're constantly blessing Him and blessing His people in whatever we do, so that He constantly blesses you, right? We can't get the big head about it. We have to stay humble. We have to do as He tells us to do, because we don't want to set ourselves up for failure, because there are people who have plenty of money and all that, but have no peace of mind. They have nobody to share it with. So there are blessings that, you know, and rewards that God just gives us beyond. So we just have to constantly be mindful of that and stay humble, is what I believe this is talking about. So yes, we like money and we need money, but we're not going to fall in love with money, right? Head over heels and lose our mind, especially when God blesses us. Because He does want to bless us. He wants to bless us with overflow. We just have to learn to manage it. And that's what the talents we're talking about in Matthew, when He gave a different portion to each person, because He doesn't give us all the same, because we can't all handle it. And we can't all handle it at once. And so we do have to be faithful over a few things so that He can bless us with many. Proverbs 22:29. Do you see a man skillful in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before obscure men. So this one is telling me that when we are skillful, God will set us in a position to be recognized by authority people that can elevate us to the next level. And it doesn't even have anything to do with the supervisor that's constantly trying to pull you down, or the supervisor that's constantly trying to take credit for what you do, or whatever it is that they're doing, because we know we all deal with that kind of stuff, right? So it don't have nothing to do with them. But if we do what we do and give God glory in what we do, right? We will be recognized when the timing is right. Because remember, God allows his timing to happen in his time and not ours. We just have to be steadfast. And I know it's hard. And I'm not saying that it's easy or anything, because I'm on this same journey with y'all. So again, whenever I am speaking to you, I'm also speaking to myself. Whenever I'm encouraging you, I'm encouraging myself. Why? Because this is how God talks to me, and he allows me to share what I've been through with you. And then at the same time, he teaches me stuff through the conversation that I don't even have planned, because none of this was planned, right? Only what's on my slide is what was planned to say, and then he does the rest. So we have to learn to take heed. Romans 12:11. Never be lazy, but work hard and serve the Lord enthusiastically. So this to me goes back to work heartedly in Colossians, as unto the Lord. We all have coworkers that do not, in our opinion, do their share, right? They do the bare minimum, and it seems like they're always recognized, or always promoted, or always given an extra, or whatever, right? But that's just, what it seemed like. Everything done in the dark comes to the light. God will reveal that which is hidden. All we have to do is be steadfast. Pray about it. Give it to him. Know that the battle is not ours, it's his. And when we trust and believe in him and not on ourselves, he will take care of all of that in due season. We just can't be lazy, because that's not what he requires of us. Now, I'm not saying be an overachiever, but I am saying we do have to do more, right? And so, but just don't do bare minimum, because that's just not of God. And that's whether you're in a job or in a career, because either way, you're still in the limelight, and either way, you can still be blessed. So this kind of, to me, spoke to God's sovereign will and his revealed will. So his sovereign will is his revelation. So I didn't have the revelation that I needed to finish college, right? Until I worked at the crouton factory. So sometimes God allows us to go through stuff in order for his sovereign will to manifest within us. Because had I not finished my degree, in my bachelor's degree, I never would have been able to work to complete my master's degree, which means I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in. It's all a part of the process, but we have to do it as he guides us to do it, so that everything unfolds in his timing. And all we do is delay it. When we don't do what he tells us to do, it still comes back around, but we have to be obedient to have that revelation, right? Because it's always after the test that you're like, oh, I knew that was the answer. But it's always after the test. So we have to learn to just be faithful and just. His revealed will is his desire for us, which he tells us all the time. He desires to bless us. He desires to keep us in perfect peace. He desires to meet every need in our desires. But we have an accountability too back to him. So we have to basically know his will for our lives, which comes through prayer and meditation. And then we have to do our part. We have to act it out so that his revealed will be clear to us, and we know that we're on the right path. Now, moving into career, purpose, and passion. First, it requires prayer, which we've talked about last week. And some of the scriptures that I found on that were, commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established, because he's going to give us a clear path. When I went into teaching, just to go back, because I talk about this in my book, Level Up, which is why it's on here. If you don't have a copy and desire a copy, they're on sale now for $10. They're normally $15. They're on my website. But going back to the scripture, when I first started teaching, I had no idea where to look, because I'm not from Dallas, right? So I didn't understand the school system. I didn't understand how it was structured, but I knew I wanted to teach, or was supposed to teach, in a high school. So I had to learn the system. I had to navigate myself around and just kind of put myself out there in an environment that I had no clue about, right? I didn't know there was a difference between a regular resume and a curriculum vitae. I didn't know there was a difference, right? One is for education and one is for corporate America. Who knew, right? Because I was corporate America to my heart. So those are things I had to learn. I had to take some time, as I have on here, to research to figure that out. But to show you how God, when you commit your work unto Him and His plans, I prayed because everything that I took, every assessment, every whatever I would read, kept coming back to me going into teaching because I was in accounting and I was just feeling like I wasn't fulfilled. Everything kept coming back to teaching, and I always wanted to teach. I just needed to know that I could live off of teaching, right? And so coming out of corporate and out of accounting, it was a huge pay cut. And I was like, okay, Lord, if this is what you want me to do, then there's some things that I need as reassurances. I need to not have to want for a position. I need a position to be provided if this is what you're signing me up to do. If you want me to teach, I need you to provide the teaching space, and I will do it. And then it was like, hey, Robin. Then it was like, and Lord, you know, I'm taking a pay cut here. I'm going to need to know that I'm going to make it financially, right? Because I'm moving from corporate to the classroom, and that's a huge adjustment, and I just need to know you got me. And I can't tell you how God continuously have opened the doors, because it's almost, it's 20 years in January that I have been teaching. I am close to retirement, believe it or not, and I have had a better life this last 20 years, financially and career-wise, than I had the 10 years that I did accounting. And not to say that He didn't bless me when I was in accounting, but He has blessed me so much more here, and it's been so much more gratifying and rewarding, and I have not had to look for a job. Praise God. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Every job that I've had in accounting, teaching accounting, that is, or in business education, He just unfolded. I was hired without a teaching certification and given time to get the teaching certification that I didn't even know I needed, right? That's God. I was hired to teach a subject that I did not have in my credential packaging, but it wasn't hard for me to navigate it because I was using it, right? I was hired to teach Microsoft Office package. I used it, but that was not my profession. I was in accounting and finance. Those are my areas. But because God's grace is sufficient and He will qualify the unqualified, He qualified me for the position because I was a business major and had accounting hours and finance hours. So therefore, I could teach anything in business. So don't be afraid to step out into whatever that passion or that purpose is for you, because when you commit your way to the Lord, as Proverbs 16:3 says, He will establish your plans. He will make a way. And that's what He has done for me. And I know He'll do that for you. And that was just one instance, because I've had a couple of jobs since then in the field, and He has opened each and every door. The position that I have now started out with me being part-time while I was at the high school. Wasn't even thinking about being full-time. So again, don't sleep on God. God has so much more in store for you than you can ever imagine. Proverbs 18:6 says, a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before the great. Exactly. I knew I could teach because I tutored all the time, and I mentored my nephews and all the kids at church, and everybody on my block, my neighborhood. I was always tutoring, always teaching. My teacher in elementary school would always give me the extra papers because she knew I was going to go home and teach the neighborhood kids. So it wasn't that I was confident in teaching. I actually liked doing it, right? I was a little corny like that. I was like, what you got for homework? You know, the other younger kids on the block, bring your homework over. We're going to do it together. So I have been doing this my whole life. Never knew that it was a gift of mine, right? And then I had no idea that there was room for it because I was going into accounting, right? I didn't know that at the time I made the decision, because He was pressing on my heart to do this, that He was going to literally make room for it. And not only did He make room for it in the high school, it was in 2 different high schools that I worked over a 5-year period. And while I was doing that, He had me teaching part-time within Dallas County Community College District all that time. So since 2001, basically, I've been doing both. did not know he was going to open a door for me to do this full time, right? And have no idea what is to come from this point going forward, but I know he will provide. The other scripture that I have under praying about this is praying about your career, moving into your career, is Deuteronomy 8:18. And again, those of you just signing in, the slides are on my business page. It says, "You shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gave you or gives you power to get wealth, that he may confirm his covenant that he swore to your fathers as it is this day." So he's going to provide. We don't have to worry. We don't have to fret, because I'm a living witness. If nobody else is, when I did this first series with you guys and I was talking about what I know God will do, I got choked up, because every time I think about how much he has blessed me, my nose turned red and I'm ready to cry and I'm ready to shout, because I know what God will do if you give your gifts back to him and you use them for his glory and you constantly seek him and seek his guidance. I promise you, he will give you what you need and beyond. So if you're seeking wealth, right, as it says here, the power to get it, right, we got to seek him for it. Because you have to remember that it comes from, all good gifts come from God. And then Proverbs 20:5 says, "The purpose in a man's heart like deep water, is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out." So we have to know that when you get to that point where you're feeling unfulfilled in what it is that you're doing, there's something greater that God wants you to do. He's tugging at you, and he's already given you a passion for that thing, which your passion, i.e., is your purpose. It is the thing that you're doing for free that you do just because, right? That God will bless, allow you to have all your needs met above and beyond in it. And he will give you understanding to know what it is, to draw it out of yourself. I did not know. I was still in corporate. I was actually working for myself at that time. I had no clue that I had this whole other 20-year plus career to come to pass, because I was working toward that career. So it's never too late to switch gears and say, you know what, I need to do this. Okay. In the process, I had earned my master's degree because it was just urging on me to get that done. Just like now, there's a tugging within me to get my doctorate done, which I will do in due season. Because I don't know what God has in store, right? I'm not seeking anything. I'm completely gratified in what I'm doing. But if God has more, has something different, then I'm rolling with him, because he is the one that keeps and sustains me. The next thing you need to do when moving into your career, your purpose, that is your passion, after praying, you need to do some self-assessment. And in Level Up, for those of you who don't have it, it's a working journal. It has questions in here that probe you about, for example, the page I happen to open up to says, what do you want to achieve? Where do you want to go? What would you like to experience? What do you want to learn? Who can you serve? What makes you passionate? And what motivates you? So there are probing questions in here, which is why it's on the slide, which is why I wrote it, right, from my own experience, that help you to do this self-assessment to say, you know, I really want to do X, Y, and Z. And know that God has given us this time to sit still, to do this self-assessment, and to hear what it is that he has for us. It's up to us to use the time accordingly and to follow through whatever it is that he's already been urging you in your spirit to do. It's up to you. If you need the guidance, get the book. If you don't, work on it on your own. Whatever it is, I'm just being a vessel being used to remind you that there is more in store for you. This also requires you to do some self-reflection. You know, what is it that I always wanted to do, but I put off because of whatever happened in my life, right? Is that still viable for me to do? You got to do some research to figure that out. And then with that, you got to do some goal setting. And with the goal setting, you have to do a timeline. And with the timeline, you have to make sure that you're checking off those milestones and celebrating them. And all that I talk about in my book, which is the purpose of it, is to love, enrich, value, empower, and lift unique people like you. So let's go into my passion. One of my passions, accounting, right? So consider accounting as a career. Why do I say that? It doesn't have an age attached to it. So I had a student who was close to my age, and you know, I don't mind selling. You God has blessed me to be 50. Hallelujah. But a lady close to my age emailed me about simply just earning a certificate in accounting because she wanted to kind of do some other things within her position, her career, move around. And I encouraged her to say that it was not too late for her to earn her bachelor's and her master's, and possibly even qualify to sit for her CPA exam licensing, and have a whole nother career, have a whole nother set of opportunities. Because right now, what she described in her position was basically clerical. It was entry level. Now she has a whole lot of knowledge because she's been doing it for a long time. And anytime you've been doing anything for a long time, especially if you're the support system, you know a whole lot, more than you even imagined that you knew. And once she gets into, her and others like her, get into the actual meat and potatoes of the degree and learn, oh, I have been doing this. Oh, I have been exposed to this. Their managers, because they know their work ethics, have no problem promoting them. Next thing you know, they will be in charge. Next thing you know, they'll move up from there and keep going because of their diligence to say, I know some things, but I don't know my next move. And then she inquired, she researched and asked me, you know, what do you think? And I told her, oh, that's great to earn a certificate, but know that the certificate feeds into the associate's degree. The associate's degree feeds into a general business degree at the four-year university in which you can get your bachelor's. And then you can major in accounting as your master's. So, and then there are some schools that even have a 5-year program, meaning all you do is one more year and you get your master's degree. So it's a life skill type program, accounting is. And it's also, you know, an entrepreneur route or just the next level within corporate. So some of the things I listed on the slide is learn life skills like tax preparation. All accountants are not tax preparers, just so y'all know. I just want to let that be known because I'm always asked. I don't prepare taxes. I will, and I do my own, and I will do them for people that ask. But it's not my passion, like as other areas in accounting that I like better, like fraud and examination. That's fun. But it is a life skill, so you do learn that, and you learn how to better manage your own money. Then it's a high demand for the career. I mean, all the boomers are retiring right now, so somebody got to fill those upper level positions, and then the lower level positions, once these people move up, have to be filled as well. But you have to have the experience to get there. So, you know, research what the demand is for whatever your area of interest is. Outlook Occupational Handbook is a great resource, and I'll tell you that again. Outlook Occupational Handbook, it is a great resource for figuring out your career. Accountants have above average earnings, even starting out, if you compare them across the board. Some of my students are, you know, banking, right? Students that have graduated and have gone on, gotten their bachelor's and are in these firms, they're making good money. Advancements are always possible, domestic and international opportunities, because you're networking with people internationally and throughout the United States. So you get to travel when you're in this position. You get to meet different people. You get to network within different industries. So you can say, well, I really never knew about this industry. I really never knew about that industry. But you learn it by doing the accounting for it. Because one thing is for sure, every area of business has an accountant, Every area of business has an accountant, whether it's public or private or nonprofit or government. Every area has an accountant doing whatever needs to be done to manage their money. You can be an entrepreneur working for yourself, especially if you get certified. And it's not a regular certification. It is a huge licensing process. It's equivalent to the bar exam. And it's just as challenging, right? So, but you can work for yourself for life, right? There are CPAs, that certified public accountants, that's what they do when they retire. They have their small little office and they do whatever jobs that they choose to do that fall under whatever their area of interest. So it's a continuum. It's a career that you can go in that doesn't really have an end until you decide to stop. And then you have corporate America, where you can work either in private sector, like, you know, Southwest Airlines is private, so you can work for them as an accountant, or you can go to like American Airlines. This is just an example. of a public company, public entity that you can go and be an accountant in, or you can be an accountant in a public accounting firm and go out and audit and do just different various roles that they have available. And the types of roles and positions that they have available now are endless. And I've already mentioned government, and it is a very respected position, and it's very flexible. And then, like I told y'all last week, the scholarships are booming in accounting. So if your student is a business student and they do not have accounting as their major and they're majoring in general business, they need to redefine general business, and they need to specify an area, because everybody graduates with general business because it's the easiest to earn. Not everybody graduates with a degree in accounting, economics, finance, because those are harder. They tend to go toward management and marketing, which are not as easy, but not as hard. So they're kind of in the middle, but, or management, right? But they're not as defined. So people that have accounting degrees, finance degrees, economics degrees, they tend to have the pick of what they want. What job they want to choose, they're going to have multiple offers, especially those in accounting. So keep that in mind for your student. And plus, like I said, there's some money out there. It's all kind of scholarship money. I know because I serve on those committees. So keep that in mind. The resume tips that I have for you guys. Know that your resume is your story. It is your professional story. So how you present it says a lot about you. How it's organized on the paper, the first impression of how it looks, tells a lot about you. It tells the employer a lot. And nowadays, they don't even really deal with the paper copy unless it happens to be a job fair or something like that. They deal with it electronically. So the cleaner it is in electronically in Word or whatever format you put it in, the better it is. So it's like, for example, some people don't know how to format their documents in Word. And they use a lot of spacing. They hit the space bar a lot, or they hit the tabs. And that's really not a clean resume, because when it's transported into their systems, uploaded into their systems, it makes all the stuff move out of the order that it was in. If it's a PDF file, it kind of tends to sit there, but it still is not aligned properly. So you have to know what you're doing. And if you don't, I can help you with that, because I've been doing resumes. That was my first business back in the day. Regina's resume service, right? Back in college. That was one of my hustles back in the day. So now it's elevated because I'm helping my students get theirs together for their interviews and their internships and things like that. Tailor it to the position that you want. You're not going to have one resume. So back in the day, in the 90s, 80s, 90s, there was one resume. This is the resume. It's chronological, or whatever the other format that just escaped my brain. But it was one or the other, and that was it. And not to say that those have gone away, but it has to be tailored to the job that you want. Whatever you write in the descriptions of the current job that you have should relate to the description of the job that you want. And you should use action words when you're doing that, because people want to know that what you're capable of doing or have accomplished, so that they can see what you're capable of doing that relates to what they're looking for. It needs to be concise, and you should probably list your accomplishments. That they shouldn't have to search for them. That should be at the top. Concise being one page. There are some of us, when you're dealing with education, we have multiple pages because we have more on it, right? There's publications, there's presentations, there's other areas. So there's a difference. So if you're going into a different profession other than corporate America, then you have to research the type of resume that they're looking for from you, because it could be completely different. There's typically on a regular resume, a corporate resume, no objective anymore. That's why you're listing your accomplishments. And then there is no address, right? Because then they can't single you out and say, hey, you're in this zip code, so we know who you are demographically and who lives in that neighborhood, so therefore they're going to rule you out. You kind of set yourself up for failure when you do that. So make sure that you're only including your name, your email and your phone number, because those are not identified to a neighborhood, and that's important, especially when you're a minority. The thing about names and email addresses need to be professional. You can use your name in it, but use your real name, not your nickname, right? It can't be pookie@gmail.com. And then when you list your name, think about how people react to your name. And I'm not saying not be proud of what your name is. That's totally not what I'm saying. It depends on what kind of position you're seeking. It depends on what kind of company you're going to. You might want to abbreviate your name. Just saying. So these are just some tricks that they rule out when they scan your resume in. They rule out for certain things. So to keep yourself in the game, you need to make yours tight. That's all I'm saying. Avoid any gaps in your work history. If you volunteered or something like that in between jobs, whether it was at your church or anything else, then you need to list that on your resume so that you don't have any gaps, because gaps say that you were idle, and idle says that you really weren't actively seeking, and they really want people that really want to work. So keep that in mind. Anything else you need to want to know about resumes or want me to do them, then you're going to have to send an inquiry to my on my webpage, rlbconsultingservice.com. I do give 15 minutes free of coaching to people who reach out to me. And then after that, unfortunately, because, we're not all in this to just give everything away for free, I'm going to have to charge you just because, right? And hopefully you want to bless me, because I've been blessing you, and I bless everybody that comes to my workshops. I give you more than whatever it is that you came for. And I just believe in giving, because it's just so rewarding, right? When I give to you, people tend to bless me back. And so I'm not giving to receive. I'm giving because I'm being obedient. But at the same time, I have to put it out there. So that's what that is. And I do help people with interview prepping as well. So the last thing that I have for you is that opportunity does knock, right? Not literally on your door, right? But this is a season where everything is still, everybody's working from home. Nobody really wants to read real work emails or whatever the case may be, or dive into it, although we have to. If you popped up an email in somebody's, let's say LinkedIn or whatever, because that's the new wave to go. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, you probably need to set up one, because that's another avenue, a huge avenue that potential employers go to seek us. But anyway, they actually have time to read what you write them now, because everybody's at home and everybody wanted to escape the norm. So we go on social media to escape the norm. So this is a great time to network with people and try to get to that next level and make your own opportunity happen. If God put that passion in your heart, thank you, sis. If God put that passion in your heart to move like I did from corporate to the classroom, then follow it, right? But you got to hustle to make it happen. Ain't nobody going to do this for you. People often want me to do stuff for them. And yeah, I'm a teacher. That's not what I do. So I'm going to teach you what you need to do for yourself. Now you hire me. That's a totally different thing. You hire me to do a specific thing for you. But if you're seeking advice from me, the advice is going to be a lesson that you need to go back home and sit down and apply for yourself, because you're not going to ever get the understanding unless you do it yourself. And that's just real talk. So the quotes that I have on here for opportunity knocking is, if you don't like where you are, then change it. You're not a tree. Some of us feel planted, like we can't do anything different because blah, 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 right? And we all have the blah, blahs. You're not. You can do something different. And the thing is, I'm still employed doing what I love to do, but I found something else I love to do, which is sharing this stuff with you guys and writing these books and going to these workshops and doing all the other stuff that I'm doing. I actually love that too. So there's still other things that you can hone in on and get done in addition to what you're already doing. You're not stuck in one thing or the other. You don't have to choose. We happen to live in a free society, thank God, where, we have limitless possibilities of whatever it is that you desire to do. There's a will, there's a way. The last quote that I have is, you're always one decision away from living a totally different life. Now let that sink in. You're always one decision away from living a totally different life. I'm living a totally different life. When I was in accounting, most of my accounting experience was in Chicago. Not to say Chicago is not a great place, because it is, and I love it. It will always be home. Even though I've been here, it's been over 20 years, 22, almost 23 years. I've been here since July of 1997. And I have a totally different life. Even from when I got here in July 1997, I was in corporate still. I worked for Baylor. I remember working for Southwestern Bell. I worked for EY. I worked for, quite a few different companies while being here back in the 90s. And I even worked for myself. I had my own consulting firm where it was accounting consulting then, right? So I was actually going around the city, introducing myself, not knowing anybody, and asking them to let me be their accountant, which they knew me from no one, right? And it was very fulfilling just to be able to see that I could sustain my own life, income, working on my own. So I did that, and then I transitioned from that to the classroom. And the classroom transitioned twice because I was at the high school and then now I'm at the college. So you're not stuck. There's all kind of endless opportunities. It's just you having to reset, recharge your mind, thinking of things that are above and are lovely, of good report, right? Not conforming to the world, because the world will have you think you can't change. No, you stuck here. No, you don't have any other opportunity. You don't have any other skills. Nobody will hire you. I had a boss tell me that back in the day when, I'll tell you, when I worked for Harris Bank. I was working for Harris Bank when I was in college, and I earned my bachelor's degree there. And when I earned it, I happened to have my evaluation at the same time, and he told me that it did not matter, and this is quote unquote, because I still have the Franklin planner that I wrote his notes in, because it's fuel for me. That's why I kept it. It's fuel for me, not that I'm a hoarder. But anyway, he said to me that it did not matter how many degrees I earned, I would never be anything. And I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. Can you say that again so I can write it down? And I literally did. And he wrote it down. Then, of course, I told his manager, who told him to fix it, right, in the same email. But anyway, that he apologized, but he meant that. And I've been faced with all kind of opposition like that since then, saying what I can't do. But you can't tell me what I can't do when God tells me I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That God tells me that there is nothing good that he will withhold from me. You can't tell me that what I do don't matter and that I'll never go anywhere. And I've often wondered, is his grandchild in one of my students in my class? Because, online you can have anybody from anywhere. Is there some kind of shape, form, fashion I could do a double check, cross back and see, did you know that my degrees did matter? And if they don't matter to you, it's okay, but it mattered to me, right? And that's all that matters, because you're always going to have naysayers. So I want you to be encouraged. I want you to know that you can go beyond your current circumstance. Whatever situation you find yourself in now in this pandemic is not the end all to be all. This is just your season to sit still and go through and journal, right? Go through and answer questions like I have in here to figure out your purpose. One of the things I have in here is about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But I call them powers, flaws, prospects, and fears. Why? Because it's a matter of perspective. It's how you think about stuff. If you think about your strengths as powers, that takes you to a superpower mindset, saying like Wonder Woman, because there's days at work I got to be like Wonder Woman or Wakanda activate, right? Because you just have to do that for yourself. And so know that all things are possible to him who believes. There's no good thing God will withhold from you. So I hope that this has been a help for you. You guys have been a little quiet today, unlike normal. And I do have quite a few new people on here that haven't been on these series before. And I believe the other lives are still out there. And if they're not, I actually have them saved to my YouTube channel. And hopefully by the time the semester ends, because I am completely swamped, I'm still flipping my classes. I have 6 more chapters to flip so I can finish the semester out in 2 weeks. So my students are on the grind. So I pray for all students, those that are graduating and those that are trying to finish the semester strong, that they are able to, and they're able to focus, and all distractions are bound in the name of Jesus, because I know how difficult it is. I have two different classes, and both have 3 chapters each that they have to grind for over the next week. And we have to encourage them. We have to encourage them to be steadfast, unmovable, and always abide in the Lord and trust in Him, and know that if they put the work in, they're going to get something out of it. If they don't put the work in, they're not going to get that much out of it. If they're not ethical, because now that we're online, ethics is just like, what is ethics? What is integrity? Who cares? So, but we still do care. But I want them to know this one thing. You're welcome, Chris. This one thing I want students to know that are online now. Be ethical, even when nobody is watching. Why? Because you will know, and it will haunt you, and it will bother you when you're sitting in an interview and they ask you, or you have to do some kind of survey about being ethical, because nobody wants to hire somebody that's not ethical and not practicing integrity. So you have to keep that in mind for yourself. You always have to do the right thing, even when nobody else is doing it and nobody is watching. And so now that, like I said, now that we're online, we know they're looking at their resources. It's whatever. But try your best to not cheat yourself of the knowledge that's being given to you and the opportunity to gain it, because it does come back to you. Everything comes back full circle. We don't know if when you transfer, for example, I'm at a 2-year university or college. So when they transfer to the 4-year university, we don't know that they're going to test them to take these credits that they took during this pandemic. We don't know if they're going to set that mandate or not. So learn the material so that if they do test you, you still know it. That's all my advice is for you. Go in grace. I bless each and every one of you with the blessings of the Lord. I pray that His love will shine upon you, that His peace will abide in you, His healing will come over you, those of you that are sick and know people who are sick, that His provision will provide for you all of your needs being met in Him. And I thank you for looking out for one another, and I thank you and I bless you for just being kind to one another, because this is a season where we all need a little more kindness, right? So I encourage you to go forth in the Lord and do what He has called you to do, and not be afraid of it, and to stand on your principles and on your morals and on God, and lean not on your own understanding, because He will see you through. He will direct your path, and He will give you greater. He will take you to that next level if you let Him. So this has been your girl, Regina Lynette Brown of RLB Consulting Service, coming today to encourage you with the student workshop series. We have one more coming forward next week. Again, is going to be a combination of making lemonade from fresh lemons and your story. We're going to put those two together, and we're going to wrap this series up. So again, if you missed the videos, you can go on my YouTube channel. If you don't have the link, I can send it to you. Just ask me. And again, you can go on my website, www.rlbconsultingservice.com, for more information. Make it a great Saturday, guys, and enjoy your weekend. Peace be unto you.